I'm really excited for this World Elite Fnatic game because Fnatic, out of the EU teams, have looked incredible.
Oh,
I mean, they, we'll see if they can compete with Moscow 5 and CLGU. That's going to be the question for them. But they've looked really strong recently, but they did, get a new AD carry. So Reckless has looked, nice in the bottom lane, but he's going against World Elite Xiao Mei, or Wei Xiao, one of the strongest, if not arguably the strongest AD carry in the entire world. And that's going to be a tough matchup for him. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I think World Elite is one of those teams that comes in with pretty high expectations into this tournament. And it's going to be up to Fnatic to see if they can shut him out. Fnatic wasn't even in the tournament. It was alternate. Fnatic, they've been like second place in I think 3 of our qualifiers.
In the third qualifier and the fourth qualifier they got second.
Okay.
So, but still though, that's to have that kind of regular performance. That is amazing. But here we are, Champ Select game number 1. We are ready to go. Picks and bans. We'll get this shifted over real quick, and we should have this underway. But also, while we're getting this fixed, I also got to say, we got there's the work cut out right now for both of these teams, and these are also, when you look at it, very similar teams too. Like I'm looking at Messiah, I'm looking at XPeke. They play a lot of the same champs too. Like Orianna, a very big contested pick between the two of them, and Fnatic. They also have done their homework. Twisted Fate is banned up against World Elite 86% of the time. That is massive. Messiah and TF.
Almost no one lets Messiah.
Almost no one lets him play. I mean, come on, they made a video about him saying how awesome TF is. I mean, of course you have to ban it. Vlad, Zyra, Lee Sin, and Orianna also coming out.
Diana is still open right now, which is an interesting one to leave open. Lee Sin definitely being banned for good reason. Lee Sin has just been a monster recently. Cyanide, we've seen him play Lee Sin some recently. Rengar being banned last. So there's a couple of strong champions left. There's champions like Shen. Diana being the first pick. She's just so powerful. But we'll see how they can do, because the interesting thing is XPK, he's been running some unusual mids recently. We've seen him run York. We've seen him run Corki. Lanes that are really good at shutting down that mid lane. And Diana, usually you think she's a pretty strong mid lane. Well, how is she going to do against York? Well, we've seen exactly that. We've seen XPK shut down Dianas in the past in that lane. So that's going to be an interesting thing. A lot of pressure is going to be on him. And Cyanide potentially grabbing that Xin Zhao pick. And we've seen him do that in the past, but definitely going to be an interesting one.
Yep. And XPK, I will say this much, though. He has had some odd choices in the past. And sometimes when he does those odd picks, they don't exactly work out. Nidalee in the mid, in the past, he played it once. Galio in the mid, he's played it once. That's someone we really don't see a whole lot of anymore. But on some of the champs, he has had some mid Lee Sin play. He's got some wins on that. But he's got a pretty good he's got a pretty good selection from, but like I've said, Messiah and XPK.
Fargan and XPK going back and forth. Who can do the most unusual mids?
They do. They do. But it's XPK definitely his success rate is clearly not as high. But like I mentioned before, he and Messiah, they play a lot of the same champs, so it will be very interesting to see where they go from there. So there's going to be the Nunu and the Xin. We've been seeing Xin quite a bit, but Soaz, I assume that's actually going to be his. He's had a little bit of experience here. But actually, Cyanide, they've actually both only had 2 games with them in the recent tournament play, so that's still somewhat ambiguous. We'll see where he goes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I haven't seen Soaz play Xin Zhao, but Cyanide, we have seen him play in the past, so I think it's going to be a support Nunu, but they, like you said, they do have those options. World Elite picking up Corki and Cho'Gath. So Cho'Gath, really strong control jungler, and they've decided on their champion for Wei Xiao. So he's going to be running Corki this tournament. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of ADs we're going to see. I mean, Ezreal's going to be big still. Reckless, it's his best AD carry, so he's going to get that Ezreal pick. So that's going to be fortunate for him, as long as he can control that. We've seen him really strong with Ezreal in the bot lane. But we're going to see a lot of diversity this weekend. We're going to see Vayne as arguably one of the strongest AD carries, and Reckless might just go ahead and do it. Vayne and Ezreal are his number 1 and 2, so he's just going with that late game advantage potentially. But there are a number of other options. Yeah,
Vayne, his Reckless is Vayne and Ezreal. So far, both of them undefeated in tournament play. So either one would be amazing here. I would assume that he'd be going for that Vayne, get to at least cancel out some of the true damage, or at least put on equal ground some of the true damage that Corki's going to be putting out, and Malphite being considered also. So let's see who else we got left on Wii. We still have a support that needs to be figured out. Is going to be going straight on in for the Sona, and then hey, Shen is open.
Yeah, Shen and Olaf definitely make sense as picks. There's also Aurelia. We've seen some Jax. I don't really expect that, but Jace, you know, Elise, any number of strong champions, they go with the Olaf. And Olaf's definitely very strong. We've seen, you know, a number of people using him like Stanley of TPA, so that's going to be a nice pick. They do have to worry about a potential lane swap from Fnatic, so Vayne in particular is someone that you oftentimes see in that lane swap. So that's definitely going to be a strong lane matchup for Fnatic, but we'll see where they go. They still have their mid to pick potentially, unless, you know, XPK could be running that Nunu, but I'm assuming that Nunu's going to be support, and we'll see what he's going to grab mid, maybe a double AD or something, or maybe even he just goes with that Yorick. We've seen him do it a lot recently. Yeah,
the Nunu...
Ari's like usually his bread and butter.
Could go for an Ari. Could be doing that. Because we still have some other options too, but we'll see where they go. They still got a few more seconds to pick. But Vayne with that Nunu, that extra movement speed, that extra attack speed buff, that could be good for the lane swap. But it's a matter of
you ramp up her damage very quickly in the game. The snowball as well protects her, and they go with Jarvan mid.
Interesting. I don't.
It could also be Malphite mid. We've seen Malphite mid in the past.
Yes.
So they have an option there. But I've actually heard from some teams that we might see Jarvan mid from a couple of teams this tournament.
I did not see Jarvan actually on the recently played for anyone on Fnatic. So this could be some interesting tech coming on in. XPK looks like it's going to be him, so it may very well be that Jarvan mid. You also got Nunu going for the Ignite as well, going to be very aggressive. Vayne, you have to go cleanse on her, and Wei Zhao actually going for the heal summoner. We've been seeing that a lot. We've been seeing a lot more defensive summoners actually on the ADs coming on in recently. You know, they're straying away from the Ignite, they're straying away from the exhaust, just so you can bait out a little bit more in those fights. And also look at Kalme, Ghost Teleport, Soaz also going for the teleport. So I think you think some potential backdoor strategies maybe later on.
I doubt the backdoor. I mean, very few teams go for this strategy.
Pull the Void Boy.
Those are very late in the game, but what it does offer is it offers those lane swaps early on.
It does.
It offers you know, a lot of flexibility. He switches to Ignite last second, so as you get a little bit more kill potential, you're a little bit stronger lane running that Ignite, so he will have a slight advantage over Olaf, though Olaf is definitely an incredibly strong laner, and XPK, he does go for that Jarvan. So real quick, we have an interesting team for Fnatic. There's not a lot of magic damage, but they should do very well against Diana. Mid, XPK, his goal is going to be to shut down Messiah, and Jarvan should be able to win that lane matchup. But usually you see Diana, she can passively farm against most champions, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can make happen in that situation.
Yeah, the World Elite right here, that's going to be critical, absolutely critical to protect Sona, make sure to protect that ultimate, because everyone from Fnatic, it is a very up-close and personal kind of game that they're going to be playing. Everyone needs to get very... everyone just goes in and commits to the engage the moment they get in for that. Malphite with the ultimate, Xin Zhao diving on in. Same thing with Jarvan and his ultimate too. So it's gonna be an interesting one. And I imagine though with Fnatic, if they don't, if they do well early on, they may just be able to muscle it out completely.
Yeah, we'll have to see what they can do in this situation. Just going to work on getting these overlays fixed real quick, guys. So hopefully we can get that sorted out. But definitely going to be an interesting match between these two teams.
So we'll see. Get right in here in just a second. Real quick, but here we go. We should be good. Just got to bring it on down. There we go. We got it. First stream of the day, of course, things are going to be a little bit, we'll have a little bit of a hiccup, but we got it.
Yeah, and we'll be able to see what's going to happen between these two teams and what they can do.
So everyone from Fnatic actually going on into the side, into this river brush. So we'll see if they're going to defend. We may or may not see Weed actually going over for the point defense here.
And so far we've seen Fnatic. They're going for kind of a passive opening. They are going to protect their blue, and we'll see where they can go with this. Sorry guys, this is just a minor thing. We'll be able to get that. There we go. That should be pretty close.
There we go. Got it. Excellent.
All right,
Cool.
so far, we have some early ward coverage. World Elite, very aggressive with their ward coverage. That's something we've seen a lot with from some of those foreign teams. Some quick damage on Kalmei, not really anything to worry about. So Olaf actually wins that situation, but there is a ward over by the blue, and World Elite, they are making their way over there. So we'll see if they go in for a late steal. They do have a ward there, so if they see that Fnatic is going to be trying to take that, that's going to be an interesting situation for them. But early on, World Elite, they've protected themselves, protecting themselves against Cyanide, which is going to be really important because Xin Zhao is a jungler who definitely wants to snowball early on. And now it seems XPK and Soaz, they're actually coming for an invade here, and the ward catches them out, so Olaf's going to be perfectly safe.
Yeah, and it's only the two, so they can make a pretty healthy assumption about where the rest of Fnatic is, and indeed, second ward over by the blue, going to be spotting him out. Let's get the Blood Boil already being used onto the Vayne. Just want to help out a little bit, make sure that Cyanide gets that pretty free and easy. XPK though, he's still doing the dance. He's still doing the dance, wants to make sure that he can actually go around and get a little bit of vision, but no, he will not. Realizes that he will be swayed, and we actually going in for the invade. They will be able to take that blue. Fnatic has actually been pushed away. Messiah with great positioning over on the side, pushing away the rest of Fnatic.
Yeah, really impressive play from Fnatic so far, and just fixing a couple of things that'll hopefully fix the stream here, and I'll hopefully get an update on what's going on there. But World Elite, so Olaf Kalmei, he actually grabs the blue, and it looked like he was actually making his way over there, but the early invade, I guess you could say, from XPK and from Soaz, it seemed to slow him down, but he's still able to grab that blue. He goes back, then he teleports up into the top lane, so he has an early advantage over Malphite now. He will be able to pick up on some of these creeps, and he's actually going to be ahead, and he's also going to be able to passively farm, so that's going to be a really strong lane for him.
Those axes are going to be coming down quite frequently, and that's one of the advantages of passing off the blue buff to your top laner. If you have someone with that range farm advantage, with the capability of doing so, he can just throw those axes all day. For the next 3 minutes, he's going to be getting so much experience. He recognizes that Soaz is going to be pushing relentlessly, so you might as well try and get as much advantage as you can, try and get as many creeps as you can. But meanwhile, you're in the mid lane. You got Diana, still a level disadvantage going up against Jarvan, so XPK is doing pretty good for himself. He's also looking to push the lane rather hard, so Messiah gonna have a little bit more of a rough time farming, just as much as Kalmei is. Granted, Kalmei's gonna have a little bit easier time with that blue buff, but Messiah though, hopefully with that shield, with the passive, gonna be still getting some pretty good farm, and actually staying pretty even, however, is out of health potions, so that is a little bit risky. Meanwhile, XPK already has his full 3 still.
Well, and it's going to be really important for Messiah to be able to control that blue later on, and already you see Reckless really in a dangerous position. Just perfect harass from Wei Zhao in that bottom lane. 20-6 is the CS score right now. So we were talking about this is the key matchup in this game for Fnatic to get Reckless into a successful situation. They're pushing him into the turret so he can pick up some extra CS here, but he's actually missing a lot of it to the turrets. So falling behind very early in this game, they definitely need Vayne to be in a strong position, which is why you oftentimes see that lane swap with Vayne. But we'll see what they can do to get him in there. Yeah,
Vayne also notoriously squishy earlier on, and when you have someone with so much poke, a very offensive-oriented support like Sona, just Q every single day. It's like, oh, Vayne, you want to get some last hits? Oh, that's cute. Here, have a few sound blasts to the ears. I'm sure it hurts just a little bit too much, and just the farming 29-9. Wei Zhao and FZ, they're happy with their performance so far. They're going to go back. They're going to get something nice for themselves. They've tripled up. They've tripled up in 5 minutes, and that is insane. Corki getting the Dorans and some extra wards. Sona getting those boots, wants to make sure you're still mobile so you can come, dive in, dive out, and get the poke on. But when they return, they're going to find that the lane swap has actually already happened. But meanwhile, mid, Cyanide coming on in with the dash. 1, 2, 3, will get the pop-up onto Messiah. The Ignite is still on. Will they be able to get it? There's the dive in, but no, first blood. Gonna be going to XPK. He flashes on out. Cyanide taking the rest of the hits. They will be fine, wonderfully coordinated there in the mid.
And that's the lane that Fnatic wants to win. Xin, he's definitely an aggressive jungler. He can get off those aggressive ganks, but Jarvan, he has a lot of kill potential, and he can also abuse that melee versus melee lane. So Fnatic can take some opportunities there. As the lane progresses, though, if World Elite, if they can get blue onto Messiah, then he's going to be able to passively farm, and it's going to be very difficult for them to have enough range to take him down, because he can just sit back, AoE the minions, and not really have to worry about it. But we see a lane swap, so Fnatic making good decision here. They needed to get Reckless out of that situation because he was absolutely being abused in that bottom lane. Soaz is going to be in a tough spot as well, but once he gets some armor, he should be okay. And then it's not really that key for him to be anywhere near as farmed as Vayne. So he can definitely fall behind, but Wei Xiao already in a position of strength in this game. So we'll see how that's going to work. And even if XPK does well in the mid lane, we've seen him roam a lot out of that mid lane. I don't know how much you can expect him to outroam Diana. You know, Diana's usually one of those champions that really can control a game early on. Jarvan can as well, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. But he really is going to want to win that lane and then try and spread the ball to the rest of his team.
So whenever he does go in for harass onto the side, it's just standard auto attacks hurt a little bit too much. And that is the advantage of having a Blizzard in the mid, even though you don't see it all too often. Got my here in the top lane. Now Reckless is finally getting a chance to farm. He's caught up a little bit, but he's still 10 behind in comparison to the enemy AD. But Olaf is still doing fine, and you also see that Soaz, to counteract some of the farm that he's being denied, did turn that Ruby Crystal into the Heart of Gold. So he'll be just chilling out for a little bit over at his bot tower.
Yeah, but we see great ward coverage from both teams. I'm a little bit surprised that Fnatic actually warded so significantly, because usually Cho'Gath is going to signify more of a passive jungler. It's going to be more about control, but they're going to be able to keep an eye on him. World Elite, though, they get to keep an eye on Xin and try and shut him down early on in the game. And the constant harass, Corki and Sona is just one of the strongest harass lanes in the game. Yeah. So that's very strong for them. But Cho, they do see Clearlove. He's actually making his way down bot, and they might be going for an early steal here for this blue, or maybe even a backdoor or a kill behind the turret onto Malphite. But Clearlove, he's actually going to be going for that blue, and Fnatic will respond.
His feast is on up really quick. Smite, Nom, quick steal, and the ward was there, and Fnatic realized, you know what, by the time we get there, we won't be able to stop him, so best case scenario, let's take theirs. Reckless and Enraid down here looking for the steal. Kame's over onto the side, and Messiah coming on over around, but will not be there in time. Actually going to be going to Vayne. Not the best case scenario, but at the very least, they stole ours, we might as well steal theirs.
Well, and it's interesting, it tells to how strong the junglers are early on, because Xin Zhao, he can get off some aggressive ganks, but he's way behind Cho'Gath right now, level 6 to level 4. And so Cyanide, even though he had it warded, he just decided, all right, I'll let you have my blue, which is not something you see a lot of times. For that, someone to just make the decision that when they have the vision and they're standing right there, to just give up a free blue. But they're able to get a blue in return, so that gives them a nice situation. But Xin, you know, definitely not in the best spot, but we'll see how that helps Reckless. We did see, though, he was only 10 CS behind, so Corki's actually out farming a little bit in that bot lane, even still after he's been able to leave that lane. But we'll see. Corki's definitely an early game AD and could put on a lot of pressure early on.
Yeah, so as just playing a little bit of hide and seek there with Corki. He's like, yeah, are you still in lane? Can I still not farm? Yeah, all right, okay, I'll go back. I'll grab my wolves. It's no big deal. Just don't worry about me. And Wei Xiao, he's going to try and freeze that lane as much as possible, because he realizes as soon as the wave gets pushed to the tower, then you're allowing Soaz to farm. So he's actually he's going back. He's grabbing the wolves. We actually see him roam out a little bit, realizing that he can't farm. Might as well go into other lanes, try and make plays. We actually see him go mid. He is 6. He does have the ultimate, so it could be huge. And Clearlove with the early oracles.
And Oracles usually wins the game early on. If you can control the Oracles, then you're just at such a huge advantage. The map control that they're going to get is phenomenal. Cho doesn't need a lot of items, so he's going to be really safe there. But Malphite and Xin in the mid lane, they want to get this. Diana goes into XPK, but they have the follow-up.
Oh, flash out of the Jarvan ult. Will get out just in time. Messiah popped up just on the very tail end of that, and Soaz cannot clear the gap in time. XPK took way too much damage on that engagement. Messiah will be fine. Will be healthy.
XPK is actually lucky that Messiah didn't dive in on him after he took those tower shots, because he almost could have gotten the kill. But Messiah playing very safe in that mid lane, so just gets some damage and gets out, doesn't want to risk it.
And when you're in a tournament like this, when you're on land, we have so much money on the line, the best option, and most options, is to play safe. You don't want to screw anything up, especially because this is group stage. Remember, these are best of ones. Granted, you're not going to be eliminated completely out of the group stage, but you might as well play safe, make a good position for yourself, and there you go, the Dragon. With that play,
not only the Dragon, but they're going to get Malphite as well.
Ooh, Messiah coming in, joining Clearlove over behind. Soaz, though, is relatively safe on the side, but he realizes something's up. Messiah goes in. You are not getting away from here. Going straight for the dash. Uses the ult, Soaz, just to get out of there. And World Elite successfully claimed the bot lane as their own. The minions are now pushing. 3-man push down in bot should be able to take the first tower of the game here to tier 1 down in bot. going to be belonging to World Elite.
Well, there's not a lot of kills in this game so far.
Yeah.
Fnatic has some strong lane matchups, so it would be kind of difficult to take down the Jarvan or the Malphite.
Yeah.
But World Elite's just pressuring them as far as map objectives, and they're really winning at that extent. And the Oracles is partially what's allowing them to do it.
Yeah.
So XPK, he was low in the mid lane. He had used all of his cooldowns. His ultimate was on cooldown as well. World Elite just decides to walk down, grab the dragon. They knew they were in a perfectly safe situation. Fnatic, they're going to try and take this top tower, but Olaf, one of his strengths is his wave clearing, so he's going to be able to easily clear this. He's not going to take that much damage, and they should be safe.
They forced the ult, though. He forced the ult.
No, his
ult's
still up.
Oh, the ult's still up.
It's his W, but
it's his W.
So that's he is going to sit back a little
Never
bit.
mind.
Cyanide trying to push him underneath this tower, but they actually have Corki and Sona for the follow-up. He does ping them out, so they have lane swapped here. Wei Xiao gets the lane against Reckless once again, and you know he's looking forward to it. So that's going to be a really tough matchup once again for that Vayne.
It's still early in the morning. It's still early. I'm still making bad calls, but it's as soon as we get the first morning jitters out, it'll be fine.
That's fine. They're not counter jungling themselves.
They're not counter jungling themselves.
World Elite pressuring the mid lane already. Just constantly pushing around the map on Fnatic. Fnatic. Yeah. We've seen them be very aggressive early on recently. A prime example would be we have seen them play against like SK recently and just absolutely obliterate them. We've seen some nice early game aggression from them, but World Elite is bullying them around, and now they're taking this top lane as well. I'm not sure that they can stop this. The Cannon minions should be able to stop it, and Diana as well, zoning them off. It's just barely alive, but Messiah, he catches out XPK. They have Xin as well, so they will back off and play this passively.
And while XPK is forcing off the Diana and Rated, being brave, throwing down the ultimate. Sona got to keep it still, but FZ will go down also, so support for support so far. But Messiah caught by two members of Fnatic. There's the Jarvan ult, cannot flash out of it this time. Messiah going to be trapped up against the wall. Will he be able to get Cyanide in return though? No, one auto attack from Corki. Wei Xiao going to be enough to do it, and here comes Cao Mei. He used the teleport and the ghost to get back into the fight. Double kill for the Corki, but he will go down for his effort, and Cao Mei does not want to 2v1.
As well, the rupture.
Here comes Clear Love. He's going to pop up Soaz. He's going to be slowed. Will he be able to get back to tower? He uses the ultimate, is back up. There's a pop-up coming from Jarvan XPK. Will he go down? Will he be able to get Cao Mei instead? Shut down coming in from Cho'Gath, eating up the Jarvan. But Olaf goes down also, Soaz grabbing that one.
A 4-for-4 exchange for Fnatic, so somewhat favorable, but it seemed like a strong position for Fnatic at first.
Yeah.
You know that World Elite, they were trying to escape out of there. Diana backed off at first, but Nunu, with the slow and the movement speed that he has, he was able to chase down Sona, force a fight. They were able to turn around, grab the Nunu kill, and then Corki just barely grabbing Vayne. If Corki hadn't gotten that Vayne kill right before he went down, that would have been a loss all around for World Elite, but they were able to grab a turret as well. They're able to hold on to that Oracle, so Cho'Gath coming in late, but we'll see what they can do with that. Messiah chasing down N-rated here, he's pretty low, but they'll just back off, and then he can put some pressure on this mid turret.
Also notice too, Clearlove, when he was attacking the tower, he actually turned off the E. One of the very few instances where you ever will. Just he didn't want to aggro, he didn't want to get the extra damage on the Soaz, he didn't want to grab that turret aggro, he just wanted to get that turret and GTFO, and indeed he did. And even though that last fight was a 4-for-4, Clearlove was the only one who didn't die. Still has the Oracles. Well,
Fnatic, they have a team that's very strong in the early game. Diana is as well. Diana is someone that just scales throughout the game. Corki as well. So it's kind of interesting. It's Corki and Diana, their early game, versus Jarvan, Malphite, and Xin. So right now the burst is kind of in Fnatic's favor with Jarvan, but the long exchanges should be in the favor of Diana and Corki. It's just they started out at a disadvantage. Olaf, he had to teleport in. I think at first he was a little bit slow to teleport because he was kind of waiting to see if they could get out, and they thought they were going to be able to escape in that top lane, but not quite able to get out. Partially that's because of the great advantages that Nunu has early on in the game, and N-rated actually grabbing an Oracle of his own, but he did go down that last fight. Wei Xiao almost taking out Reckless. One more attack, one more rocket, not able to get it. He did force out the cleanse, but just barely not picking that up.
Then you got Cao Mei trapped between three members of Fnatic here in top lane. Did use the ultimate, but it's just a struggle for him to get away. There's the ultimate come back up from Soaz. Pop up, sign, not giving Graham credit for that one. Messiah N-rated saying no, you cannot leave as quickly as you'd like to. Gonna get some extra damage, but does force him back.
That's a
minion wave
second
is support
turret for a first turret. So
Yeah.
tier 1 is probably going to go down up top for Fnatic, but they're pressuring the base. They actually might not even get that tier 1 because they have to get back quickly because World Elite's just going to keep pushing in. It's 15 minutes into the game. They want to take down this base turret. XPK, he can try and clear some, but without that AP carry, they're missing some AoE clear. But at World Elite, they do actually back off. So they have that bot lane. It's open. So as he's able to take down that top lane, and World Elite's in a really strong position right now. 5k gold advantage, or just about 4k gold advantage over Fnatic.
And that is nearly all objectives and just sheer farm. The kills are actually Fnatic's favor, and yet World Elite still has this massive gold advantage here onto the 17th minute. 4k this early on in the game is absolutely massive.
And one of the scary things for Fnatic right now is you compare the oracles on Cho versus the oracles on Nunu, and Cho's, just vastly safer than Nunu is at this point in the game. He's going to be roaming more, and you don't really expect him to go down in fights. Whereas N-rated, they have the burst to almost instantly kill him.
Yeah.
So right now, Fnatic, if they can keep onto their oracles, it gives them an opportunity to come back in this game. They need to be able to clear out the wards from World Elite and deny some of that aggression. But if World Elite's able to catch out Nunu, he's going to drop very quickly. Fnatic, if they lose that oracles, then that could be it. Like, they could just be so far behind in this game that they might not have a chance to come back.
And even when this next big team fight comes up, also look at the front line of World Elite. Chain Vest, Aegis, Warden's Mail. They know Fnatic is very heavy on physical damage, so they're going to be able to stay in that fight a little while longer and have Weijia actually on the back end throwing down more missiles, throwing down more damage.
And that was one of the concerns coming in this game, is the physical damage heavy team for Fnatic. A lot of times you can actually run a physical damage heavy team because it's difficult to itemize into that armor early on, but Cho'Gath and Olaf in particular are champions that they'll itemize into those defensive stats early on, and then Diana and Corki, they have high enough base damage that they don't really, they make up for the rest of their team. So the base damage is very high on World Elite, so they can go into those defensive stats. A lot of times you're not able to get the armor that early in the game, but that's going to be scary for Fnatic. Once Fnatic starts getting some armor pen, that'll be fine, but early on this could kind of force fights in the way of World Elite.
Yeah, so far that armor pen, though, it's only the Brutalizer on Jarvan, and just whatever residual armor pen they have from their runes. World Elite also muscling in for yet another dragon. They know the wards are cleared. You still have that Oracles, but XPK does have something to say about it. Out in front, trying to bait something out, which has the standard up. You got Kalme still on the side, though, keeping the aggro up. They want to make sure the dragon doesn't quite reset yet, because they know they can pick the leg. Little speeds up, does grab it. There's the initiation coming from Malphite over on the side. You got Diana with the pull-in, Nunu with the ult right in the middle of the lane, but he is stunned by the Sona ult, and there's Jarvan isolating the Sona and Cho, but does die within. Messiah off on the side. Cyanide does have to flash out to get out of the fight. Very low. There's a flash from FCZF, wants to slow, and Soaz over on the side, going to be stomped by the rest of Wei. Nice flash from FC. He wanted that slow. He wanted to see if he can actually get Vayne to still stay behind, but it was still a fantastic fight.
Oh my god, that was a perfect fight for World Elite. Yeah. Sona had the beautiful ultimate. Corki almost going down early on, but Weishao was able to back out there. He was actually forced to use his heal, and he almost went down at that. So Fnatic's quick burst almost grabbed him. If they were able to take down Corki, they would have been able to win that exchange. But Weishao, he was able to get back, and then World Elite provided a perfect front line for him, and Sona hit 4 people with her ultimate, which absolutely won them that fight.
Including
and then the AoE from Corki, including Nunu. So N-rated, he's back. They're chasing down Weishao. He's a little bit low, but the Cho'Gath Rupture, it gives them that separation. That's one of the great things with Cho'Gath is in team fights, the separation that he can provide for your team with that Rupture, and the fact that he's just an all-around tanky body. So we'll see if he gets out of there. Weishao's in a dangerous spot here, but they don't have any wards on him. He's going to be able to Valkyrie over the Baron Pit at the very least. There he goes. So he's going to get out of there fine. But 8k gold advantage for World Elite, and almost one fight for Fnatic, but you have to imagine that fight almost seals the deal for Fnatic, but they do have a very strong late game with Vayne if they can allow him to continue to farm. But you can compare the AD carries. 4-1 on Weishao along with 160 CS compared with the 120 and 1-1 on Reckless so far.
And even then, also look at the rest of the lineup. You got Diana still ahead in farm, even though Jarvan does have a few kills in credit, but also look at the difference between the junglers. Twice the farm, twice the fun, and that is a very, very big show. Level 11, level 2 in the ultimate, so he's just gotten that much bigger, that much more healthier, and that much more tankier.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of times in the past Jarvan comps succeed early in the game, but then fail as the game progresses. Messiah catching up Soaz here. Wei Xiao's going to have enough damage to take him down. The question is if the rest of the team can get to him, because Sona's here grabs the slow, but Shogath is actually going to zone off both Nunu and Xin Zhao, and Soaz just barely makes it out of there. So we'll see if Fnatic can actually make a turnaround here. Olaf is now split pushing, and that's the advantage of that teleport. So he's going to split push that bottom lane, while World Elite is just zoning them up here top.
Ult is now back up for Sona. FZ will have that available to him. And meanwhile, Clearlove actually going on down, splitting up through the jungle and clearing out all coverage. Kame, he's off to his zone. He can just run amok as soon as he gets to that tower. And Fnatic realizes they need to get over there. They need to defend. Soaz will be on guardsman duty down there in the bot lane. But World Elite also clearing out whatever coverage they can. Clear out the ward inside the Baron pit. And going to be meandering on back on in to over by the red buff. Xpeke wants to get a little bit of vision, throws down the snare. There's the rupture coming on in. There's the silence. I think they might be able to. He's in a full retreat, but no. World Elite playing it safe, grabbing the ward, resuming the split push.
Well, and they have them zoned off the top lane now.
Yes.
They know that they can pressure them there. Bane's mid, Malphite went bottom, so they know they have the advantage top. In this situation, it could be a 4v5. Soaz needs to make sure he doesn't allow Calmei to teleport. That is his only goal right now, so he's chasing down Calmei. If he can get a kill there, that would be fantastic, but he needs to make sure he can deny that. The tower almost goes down. There's the initiation from XPK, but there's the teleport coming in. There's no cancel because that Malphite ultimate is down. The rupture, the first guy goes down. N-rated drops as well.
No.
World Elite just annihilates Fnatic, and now they can press in for this top turret. They should be able to grab an inhibitor here, and then the bot is exposed as well with minions pushing up. This might result in 2 inhibitors for World Elite.
This may be game. This might very well be game. Fnatic may just get frustrated and surrender here because they know how bad of a position they're in. It's a 10k lead at 22 minutes. That is massive to have at this point. And I'm having trouble about where Fnatic can go from this. And even then, that fight was like so casual for World Elite. It's like, Nunu's ulting, what do we do? Well, we got plenty of time. Let's just rupture. That'll take care of it.
Well, and one of the issues with Fnatic's team, like we've talked about, is how they scale into late game. Well, Vayne and Xin are both very strong late game. That's partially why they went with the Xin jungle, to make up for Jarvan's failings later on. But XPK, he's going to go down. Wei Xiao has the red buff if he can chase him. He's going to be able to get that standard to get out of there. But Messiah with the follow-up, they drop him very quickly.
No.
And Jarvan as a champion, he has a lot of burst early on, and he's incredibly tanky early on in the game. That allows him to usually control those mid-game fights. But they fell behind early, and then as the game progresses, Jarvan has no sustained damage. So out of their mid laner, they're really lacking there. And World Elite, they're actually waiting, seeing if maybe they can catch someone out of position. They know that Fnatic maybe can be baited into this Baron.
Right now, World Elite wants to tell Fnatic, by the way, you are no longer safe outside of your own base. You saw what happened with Jarvan. He tried to farm, and he died for his efforts. They're putting the fear right now into Fnatic, just making sure that they can just never be confident leaving their base.
But again, World Elite's playing this very safe, so they could have potentially pressured that Baron. It would have been a 4v5, but they didn't want to get low. Olaf and Cho'Gath, they won't tend to get low. It would be a fairly safe Baron for them, but it opens up the possibility of a steal for Fnatic, which maybe could result in a comeback. So what they do instead, they sit back in the jungle, they wait to see if Fnatic's going to come and just expect the Baron, since that would be kind of the standard play there, and then they just back off. They just go, get their gold. They recognize we're crushing Fnatic. They're crushing Fnatic in these team fights right now, so they don't have to do anything that risky. Now they've healed, they've bought their items, they've spent all of that gold advantage that they've built up, and now they can potentially pressure that Baron again once Wei Xiao rejoins the team. Randuin's,
Frozen Heart, Zhonya's. Calmei, though, getting caught off a little bit, but it's okay. You got the support from the rest of your team. He does get brought down just down to half, courtesy of Reckless and those silver bolts. Like, that's fine. We've displaced you enough. We can go back, resume, push the mid. Also, looking at the rest of the items on the team, you got the Try and the Last Whisper on Corki, along with the Red Elixir. You also got the Zeeks on to Sona. That helps out nearly everybody on the team, and that's that's the great part about a lot of the Asian teams too, is that the synergy between all the individual champ picks to make sure that whatever you do, whatever items you grab, helps the entire team, not just one or two people.
Yeah, the early aura items are definitely very strong. Jarvan, he is back, so they do recognize he's out of there. But Wei Xiao, he has that red buff. If he can catch someone, there's the Shirelius actually, but it doesn't grab Wei Xiao. But Messiah, he engages onto Soaz. Soaz forced to flash out of there, and they will back off. But World Elite forcing a flash. They put Fnatic on the defensive once again, and maybe they can, come pressure this Baron. I'm a little bit surprised they're actually not just pressuring the bot turret, but maybe they're expecting maybe Fnatic could get a steal or take the Baron themselves. So very safe play. They know that Jarvan was in the mid. They pinged them up, and now they are actually going for the spare. They've been trying to bait for a while now. Fnatic hasn't been coming. All right, let's just take it finally.
Yeah, they have the damage. They also have the smite and the feast to get the rupture going on just to delay Cyanide just a little bit. And there's all of the kill onto the Baron. You got the flashes in and away. Wei Zhao going to be pushed back by the main ult, but here comes Soaz. Desperation attempt with the ultimate to the entire team. You got Jarvan with the ult strand to the back, wants to single out Corki, and he's doing pretty well for the time being, but remember, this is V with the Baron buff. Jarvan going to be first to go down. Soaz trying to retreat by a Triumph, but cannot. Reckless is running away from the base. He's being pushed out by Diana and Olaf. Double kill for Corki, going to be grabbing the Nunu. Reckless has nowhere to go. He's just he's in a mere struggle just to stay alive, but no, there is the ultimate from Messiah and the pull in. That's the convincing kill. Cyanide, the only one left alive. It is a full 4 for free. We should be able to push on in, grab the Nexus. This should be their game.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a surrender here. They should probably be able to take this regardless. Wei Xiao dropping Cyanide very quickly. One more attack under there. He does get the ace, and they will be able to take this Nexus. So World Elite, 1-0 in the group stage so far. Just dominant play versus Fnatic. I mean, it didn't look like Fnatic was really in the game for most of it. So just really dominant performance. And World Elite's definitely one of the favorites coming into this tournament. So they get the Nexus, they get the win, and they'll be in the winners for this group stage, and we'll see if they can make it into that winners bracket.
Then they will be playing the winner of Dynamic and Blaze, and that is going to be a very exciting match on its own. But I will say that I've been talking with a lot of the teams coming on into this, and many of the teams, their top 3 threats, their top 3 worries, World Elite was among them. And granted, they've been performing very well lately. Some of the roster changes, not really an issue for them. And actually, I think historically, they actually do better following a roster change for some reason, which is so weird to me. It's like, you have a new lineup and you have to get your synergy. It's like, no, we do better. Everyone's on the same page. We do fantastic. That is proof positive right there.
World Elite is just an insanely strong team.
Yeah.
They have to be one of the top 4 contenders in this tournament. So the Group A and Group D are just so powerful. I mean, TPA and Moscow 5 and Curse NA in Group D. Group A, to have the matches that they have with World Elite and Zubu Blaze. Fnatic was thought to maybe be a contender in that group, but against the Zubu Blaze and World Elite, that's going to be a tough showing. So we'll see what they can do. But World Elite, they do take the first game of this group, and we'll see where they go with this group. We're actually next is going to be Group D.
No, actually, we're going to be going. Yeah, we're going to go to Group D next. Taipei Assassins versus Blackbean. It is what many are considering the first seed and the last seed coming on into this tournament. I've talked to Blackbean a little bit too, and they know what's up. They know they're where they are currently. They're not expecting a whole lot, but they are promising to try their best and give us a show at the very least.
Well, we'll have to see what they do.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. We haven't really seen that many games out of Blackbean. The ones that we have, they haven't really looked like the strongest team. I mean, they don't seem like they're at the same level of competition here. But they definitely are a team that's trying to make a showing. And then if they can, improve, take what they learned from this international experience, then maybe in the future we'll be able to see them. But that's it for the moment, and we'll be right back with the next game. It's going to be Taipei Assassins versus Blackbean.
See you in a bit.
The new AMD A-Series APUs give you discrete-level graphics and multi-core CPU power, all on one chip.
Rated M for mature.
Elite, an early controlling lead versus Fnatic, just absolutely dominant in that first game.
Absolutely, and a lot of the teams, they were fearing World Elite, and now if you didn't know, now you know. Very aggressive play, wonderful coordination coming in too. Granted, Fnatic, they did have that first gank coming in was very well coordinated, but that was it. That was all they had. And also keep in mind too that Fnatic, they didn't have exactly the most prep time for this.
Well, yeah, but they've been preparing for other tournaments. They've
Yeah.
been playing, scrimming as a team. That is one of the downsides of coming in not as a regularly qualified. They came in, took alternate spot, but World Elite, you saw, every single minute they had that game mapped out. They had, all right, Olaf, he takes blue buff, he goes into the top lane. If there's a lane swap, if they had done the 2v1, which is kind of what I expected them to do at the beginning, and sent Vayne up top, then Olaf would have been fine. But versus Malphite, it just gave him an advantage. So he has an advantage in that top lane. Wei Xiao, he was fine with shutting down Reckless in the bottom lane. And then, you saw the pressure that Cho'Gath was able to put on. They passive for the first couple of minutes, but they had wards everywhere to completely deny any aggression from Fnatic, and then World Elite turned it on. They took the Dragon, then they took the bot lane, transitioning lane to lane. It was really impressive play.
Yeah, all the aggression from the junglers was some that, as such, where you spent too much time in the lane, you're not farming properly, was down in creeps, and you saw even at the very end of the game, there was World Elite, they had twice as much farm on their jungler.
Yeah.
As opposed, and even then, when Cho did finally join the fight, he actually joined the fight around level 6, level 7, and he already had.
Well, he was 2 levels ahead.
He was 2 levels ahead. Not only 2 levels ahead, but also 2 feast stacks.
Yeah.
Going into those first few fights, which are absolutely huge, and people underestimate the extra health you get as Cho with the ultimate, but it adds up. Every little bit counts. But
and just a quick reminder, guys,
Yes.
we will be in this game shortly, but if you actually head to IGN.com and watch the games there, so IGN.com, our front page, you'll be able to watch these games in free 720p HD right now. So definitely take advantage of that. But there's also a voting app. So if you have an iPhone, you can get it there. We have a iPhone app. But then also on the main page with the stream, there's voting. So if you sign in, you vote as the games progress. You can actually change your vote as the games progress, and then you lose points. But if at the end of the game, if you had picked Fnatic early on, then you're like, wow, World Elite's crushing him. Let me switch my vote. You'll still get some points. Those points over the weekend, and they do tally across multiple games. If you want to check out other streams, they will tally for a prize giveaway. The grand prize is an IPL Origin PC, which is actually what we're using here for all of the people. We've heard in the past, people maybe having issues with laptops or anything like that. So the PCs we have are insanely good. It's 16 gigabytes RAM. It's NVIDIA GeForce 660, I think.
I think so.
So, really impressive stats. It's a really great computer, guys. So definitely check that out. But we will be in this game shortly.
Yeah, and we'll also do our best to make sure that Dyrus individually touches every single one. Just
well,
so
there is actually a you can buy the PC with signatures. I believe.
I think you can. But that's even then, and even with the signatures, it's still a fantastic price.
Yeah.
And also, if you are currently in a struggle to watch a stream on your TV, if you're currently dragging your computer downstairs, no fret, because we're also streaming on Xbox Live, the IGN app, also free HD there. If you're considering it, want to get all the friends over, have some pizza, have some chips, fantastic there. Blackbean, TPA coming up next. Everyone is in the room. And before the break, we're talking a little bit too. So this is what everyone is considering as the match, the first seed versus the last seed. And let's talk a little bit about TPA. If you've been living under a rock for the past few months, the current world champions.
Yeah, well, they're incredibly strong. Toys is arguably the strongest mid laner in the game. Lil Balls, he's been very strong in the jungle in the past. He's one of the top 5 junglers, you probably have to say. Stanley, I don't think there's any question that people would consider him a top 5 top laner. Bebe and Mistake, they've been really strong in the bottom lane as well. So you go top to bottom, the individual skill for Type A Assassins is amongst the highest in the entire world.
Yes.
They've scrimmed a lot in the past against Najin's Sword. They've had a lot of a big relationship there, but they're a very strong team. However, they've been playing in a lot of tournaments recently, so it's, maybe they haven't had quite the amount of time that you expect for them to practice. They've had some losses recently that maybe surprised some people. The Garena Premier League, the finals versus Singapore Sentinels. I mean, partially you have to consider that the SGS is a very strong team, and I think that's definitely the case. SGS is definitely going to be a contender this weekend. But you have to wonder, after winning the $1 million prize for the Season 2 championships, where World Elite's head has been. And maybe Blackbean, can take advantage of that. Because there's no way that World Elite or Type A Assassins is, expecting to lose to Blackbean right now. So
Right.
maybe Blackbean comes in. They have the advantage of surprise. Type A Assassins underestimates them and, can maybe take something there.
I think none of the teams here are really expecting to lose against Blackbean. Even then, like some of the NA teams, I remember looking at some like the Curse videos, and I remember Liquid actually looking at the Leaguepedia page. It's like Iceland and Blackbean. Who are they? Like people are kind of like more confused. And actually, there's only one team here that has actually played and actually knows a little bit about Blackbean, because Blackbean actually scrimmed up against Fear into the late hours of last night.
I heard something about that game with Afromil.
It was ugly. It was definitely a little bit ugly, but Blackbean, though, that was the first time right there last night that Blackbean has ever actually scrimmed against a non-Thailand team in a professional setting of this caliber.
Yeah.
So they're definitely a little bit shocked.
Yeah.
They're definitely a little bit rocked, but they are comfortable. They do know where they're at. They know very well how people are viewing them currently, but there are strengths among the team. The Thailand meta is very, very passive, very farm-oriented, and it's just a little bit unfortunate that they're here against nearly every single one of these teams are very aggressive oriented.
That's where the game's going, though.
Yeah.
And that scares me, because the games that we've seen with Blackbean, we saw them beat Bangkok Titans to get into this IPL 5 qualifier. So they did have a nice run, a nice showing of beating a number of people. But at the same time, versus TPA, is Blackbean going to outfarm TPA in lanes? Maybe. But TPA has some of the highest individual skills in the world, so it seems unlikely that they'll fall behind in farm. So then the question is if they can take control of those mid-game fights. That's going to be the key for Blackbean. That's how they were able to beat Bangkok Titans. Bangkok Titans, they were the aggressors in that game. And Bangkok Titans, it seemed like they were steamrolling them, really. They were just really putting a lot of pressure on throughout the early portions of the game. But then Blackbean was able to turn it around with some strong team fights. They had some nice AoE control. They would use champions like Vladimir for their top laner. They would use champions like Vayne, or Graves, who has AoE. So, definitely some strong picks there. We'll see, if they can prevent TPA from getting off to too much of a lead, or even hold the lead themselves. They can maybe make something happen. But it's going to be a tough one for them.
And also, a lot of Blackbean's strength is also within their jungler Insta. And on their Facebook, if you read like some of their bios, and hopefully my Google Fu is right, my Google translation is right. But upon the things they fear the most is like we're afraid of ourselves when teams let us have Skarner. We fear ourselves when we get Skarner.
Well, Skarner's a very strong pick overall, and we did see versus the Bangkok Titans.
Yes.
Skarner was part of what got them back in that game, because they were able to pick off members of Bangkok Titans. They were out of position.
Yeah.
So that's where Skarner excels, being able to force fights very quickly or grab people that are out of position. But you can't imagine that TPA is going to be out of position very often.
Right.
That's not a signature of their team. They tend to be the ones that, if it's a 2v2 fight, now all of a sudden it's a 4v2 in TPA's favor. And that mobility from both Toys and Stanley is oftentimes what wins them those games. So that's going to be a very scary prospect for them. But yeah, we should probably expect that Skarner pick.
Yeah.
And that does give them hope, because Skarner, he does have that quick pick-off potential.
And that is the advantage of being an unknown. That is the advantage that both Blackbean and Iceland have coming into this. You have no idea what to ban against them. You have to learn on the fly what bans you need to be using, and especially something like group stage, these are best of ones. You only get one shot. You're not quite going to know where to go from the get-go. So what we're going to see against Blackbean and against Iceland is actually more like standard solo queue level bans, like your your Malphite, your Shen, your Blitzcrank, your Katarina, things like that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. I have to imagine that we'll see like an Orianna ban on Toys, because his Orianna is just devastating. Blackbean, they can't allow him to get that. Maokai on Lil Balls, one of his stronger champions, Mundo as well. But probably will leave open the Mundo, see what they do against that. I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be an exciting match. We'll see. I mean, this is really is going to be the tell, I think, for how strong Blackbean is as a team.
Yeah.
We'll be able to check out this game and see, all right, what can they do? How do they look as a team? And I don't know. This is going to really maybe enlighten us a little bit for the rest of these matches.
I would like to see that too. And also we're talking a little bit about low balls too. His Maokai is strong. His Olaf is strong. His Mundo, his Dr. Mundo, in recent tournament play, he's 11-0 with Mundo in the jungle. That is insane. That is absolutely insane.
Part of that goes to the team.
Yes.
You know, Taipei Assassins' overall record is insanely high. So for them to have 11-0 on that champion, you have to imagine there's a couple other champions on their roster that are in the 90s or 100%.
We got Jack's top lane on Stanley, Oriana in the mid 100% win rate, Nivea, TF, which has always been a huge contester in the Asian region. Ezreal, seen some Vayne, Graves. We got some insane Lulu numbers also in support.
Mundo is interesting because some people really like him as a champion. Some people kind of shy away from him, and it's he has incredible strengths in the jungle. Mundo as a champion has some of the highest early game damage of any jungler in the game. So that makes him very strong at dueling in the jungle and also in the top lane. Those are his big strengths, jungle and top lane. However, he doesn't tend to put a lot of pressure in the mid lane. That's why a lot of teams shy away from Mundo because he can't really apply that pressure in the mid lane. He's not very strong at those mid fights because you just retreat to the turret, no big deal. But when they already are happy that Toys is going to win the lane by himself, or just passively control that lane, it's not that much of a concern. And then they get that jungle presence that Mundo provides. So that's definitely a strength there.
Now we will talk about one jungler who can put pressure on the mid, and one jungler that we've seen quite often a long time ago from TPA, and is Alistar. And he's fallen off a little bit, but we may see him actually resurge here with TPA. And also remember that one of TPA's biggest strengths is those team fights. They are so well coordinated. It boggles the mind sometimes to see these guys in massive team fights.
Well, it's they keep Bebe safe. Toys' positioning is always it seems perfect, but I think the big thing with TPA that you see is they take advantage of their opponents being out of position very effectively. So they don't tend to get caught in positions where they have to force a fight that's not in their favor. They're usually very strong at retreating out of those kiting, and then they'll wait until they have a person advantage. So they force those early and mid game fights where they have the man advantage, and that's very easy to win in those situations. You don't have to worry that much about positioning when you're fighting 4v5 or or I'm sorry, like 3v1 or something like that. So we'll see what they can do. Iliade, their support for Blackbean is the only female professional player that we know of, but definitely the only one in this tournament.
I also saw the scrim with Fear, and Aledo, I think there's a bit of a communication issue still within Blackbean as a whole, and I think I saw a little bit of that last night too, because I saw them scrim, but Aledo was just kind of like off on her phone on Facebook. She had I think they had their coach playing in for her. Like I asked, I was like, why is she not playing? And so she steps in. She's there for champ select and then just hops off the computer. I'm like, it's a little odd.
Yeah,
it's definitely a little odd.
That is interesting. I have to imagine she's on the computer now when the game starts. But that has to be a concern for their team. But I don't know. We'll see what they can do. So it's they definitely have some options.